high-level delegation of ambassadors from 30 NATO nations is scheduled to visit Japan in mid-May to study Tokyo's successful management of its relationship with the United States. According to reports, the mission following scathing criticism of the alliance from the US President Donald Trump, who recently labelled NATO a paper tiger and claimed it failed to provide adequate support during the 39-day US-Israeli war in Iran. The diplomats aim to gain insights into how Japan maintains strong ties with Washington while balancing regional security demands. The visit, which includes a stop at the US naval base in Yokosuka and a subsequent trip to South Korea, comes as the Trump administration considers drastic measures against unhelpful European allies. Reports suggest that the White House is weighing a plan to withdraw US troops from nations that restricted airspace or refused military support during Operation Epic Fury, such as Spain and Germany, and relocate them to more supportive partners like Poland, Romania or Greece. We are now again being rejoined by Dr. Gilbert Doctorow. Thank you for joining us back here for this. After being labelled a paper tiger by President Trump, is NATO facing a credibility crisis, or is this pressure forcing it to redefine its strategic role?
Well, if the United States pulls back from NATO, I don't say leaves NATO, because President Trump does not have the authority to make such decisions. It's Congress that does it. But if he weakens the American presence in NATO by withdrawing troops or moving them somewhere else, then of course NATO essentially collapses. It will exist. There will be an entity called NATO, but its ability to pursue the role originally designed for it, which is to keep Russia out of Europe, then it will be a total failure. It doesn't have the wherewithal, it doesn't have the delivery means, it doesn't have the basic armaments to contain Russia. And so it is indeed a paper tiger.
And why is Japan being seen as a model partner? What lessons can NATO allies realistically adopt from Tokyo's approach to managing ties with Washington?
I think it's premature to say that Japan has successfully managed its relations with Washington. One visit to Washington does not mean that the Japanese-US relations are perfect. After all, one of the lessons that came out of the Japanese premier's discussions with Trump, even before the visit, was just say no. Trump insisted that Japan, this is before the Iran war, stop buying Russian oil, and the lady prime minister said no. We absolutely need that oil, so we don't even discuss it. So in that sense, the Japanese were more successful by saying no than Mark Rutte was by speaking to Trump as daddy. The daddy routine no longer provides cover or satisfies members of the European Union.
And if the US begins rewarding, like he said, supportive allies while penalising others, does this risk fragmenting NATO into competing blocs rather than a unified alliance?
Well, it doesn't risk. It's happening already. Let's take this from the future to time present. NATO is deeply divided. And with regards to those who want to have the daddy approach and those who want to have the just say no approach. So NATO is falling apart between our eyes. To speak of becoming blocs is not really helpful, because NATO either exists as unity or it doesn't exist at all. Now, let's keep in mind that if they're going to if Washington is going to rely on the support or continuing relationships with countries that have supported it, it'll have nobody left. You mentioned Poland in passing, but that is incorrect. Poland refused to assist the United States in the Middle East in the Iran war. So there may be a few small countries like the Baltics, which altogether are a population of about 4 million, all three of them, and have armies that we could call a small police force if you're looking at normal countries. They may support NATO and Mr. Trump all the way. But nobody else, no serious country, supports the heinous crimes that Mr. Trump is committing in his war against Iran.
And as we know, throughout this conflict, Trump has been very vocal in saying about how disappointed he is about NATO and basically how annoyed he is because they haven't stepped up to join in. With Trump also saying they plan to withdraw troops from countries like Spain and Germany. Fundamentally, could this reshape Europe's security architecture? And how do you think these countries like Spain and Germany are going to take this and react back to it?
Well, it certainly is changing the security architecture because from having something that looked like a fortress, they now have a group of tents in the desert. NATO, without the United States' active participation, has no military force to speak of. So how will it affect the architecture? Well, if people wake up, if the leadership in Europe wants to have a serious discussion with a psychiatrist, which it needs badly, it would find that the best thing to do when you have an enemy is to try to sit at the table and make up with them so that you can survive and flourish. The security architecture will change as it sinks into the minds of European leaders that the United States is unreliable, that the United States is committing war crimes, that with allies like this, who needs enemies? And Europe is moving away from the United States simply because the United States, in front of our eyes, is violating in the crassest way European values. Accordingly, Europe will reorganize. It will reach out to Russia at some point, and they will define a new security architecture for Europe, which does not include the United States or the powers outside of Europe that are in NATO.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gilbert Doctorow, for joining us here today. It's a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you. Israel has intensified its military campaign in Lebanon,